Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today, I'll once again bring you the turbulent yet deeply sweet love story of the single mother Lythieuca and the kind-hearted policeman Hùng. As you already know from the previous episodes, Hùng was faced with a difficult choice: either continue his demanding career in the police force, or leave it behind to stay by the side of Lythieuca and her little son Tony. In the end, his heart spoke louder than reason. Hùng decided to set aside his career, once his greatest pride, to remain with Lythieuca. From that moment on, the two officially shared the same roof, living together like a true family. At first, their days seemed peaceful. Together, they nurtured a small home filled with warmth. Lythieuca felt protected by Hùng presence, while Hùng discovered a simple happiness in every meal and every moment with her and her son. But is love ever really that simple? Because love, especially when bound to responsibility and the struggles of daily life, always carries unexpected trials. In this episode, an unforeseen event arises. It's not only tied to work, but also deeply connected to Hùng elderly mother, the woman he respects and loves dearly. This incident puts Hùng in a difficult position, forcing him to make important decisions that could directly affect the lives of all three of them.
Will Hùng have the strength to protect his love, while also shouldering the responsibilities of family and filial duty? And will Lythieuca be strong enough to stand beside him through this new storm? Stay tuned and watch the full video today to find out the answers.
As everyone already knows, in the end, Lythieuca and Hùng chose to return to each other, opening a new chapter, a new family under the same roof. Before leaving, Lythieuca sat quietly beside the small bed, her hands folding each worn piece of clothing that had accompanied her through the hardest of times. The little room at his house was not spacious, yet for her and her son, it had been a shelter, a place that carried both tears and the rarest of smiles. Each time she finished folding one item, she would pause, letting her hand linger on the fabric as though touching her memories, her heart swelling with an indescribable wistfulness. The moment of farewell sank the house into a heavy silence. Hoai stood motionless by the door, his gaze at Lythieuca filled with unspoken words. His elderly mother sat on the familiar rattan chair, her trembling hands clutching a faded handkerchief, her eyes blurred in the dim light of dusk. Neither spoke much, letting the silence speak instead, and it was that silence which made the atmosphere all the more suffocating. Since the day Lythieuca and little Tony had come to live with them, the once lonely house seemed to have been lit up. Simple meals were suddenly filled with laughter and conversation. The sound of Tony's small footsteps pattering around the yard, his cheerful stories from school, or the sight of Lythieuca busy in the kitchen with the aroma of steaming soup, all of it had wrapped the home in the warmth of a true family. It was not only joy, but also comfort, a balm to soothe the weary days of Hoai and his mother. That was why, as Lythieuca packed her belongings and led Tony out the door, Hoai and his mother felt as though something dear had been taken from them. When the door closed, emptiness filled the house. Every corner still seemed to carry traces of the mother and son, the tiny slippers Tony had left imprinted on the floor. The porcelain cup Lythieuca often used still sitting on the table. They became fresh memories, bittersweet and haunting. And yet, both Hoai and his mother understood Lythieuca could not remain there forever. She needed to return to where she truly belonged, back to Hùng, the man who had chosen to give up a stable career to stay by her side. They knew only by returning could she find a complete home. Despite the sorrow, despite the emptiness, deep down they offered her their sincerest blessing, wishing that she and Tony would find happiness and that all storms would fade to give way to peace. As for Hoai, though outwardly silent, a hidden sadness flickered in his eyes. The feelings he held for Lythieuca had never been spoken, existing only as a quiet current within his heart. He knew he could not hold on, nor could he step into her life. All he could do was watch from afar, keeping his regret to himself, and wish that she would live fully with the choice she had made. Lythieuca and Hùng had finally come back together, officially living under the same roof. That evening, Lythieuca prepared a proper dinner, not luxurious, but brimming with the flavor of love. She carefully cooked all of Hùng favorite dishes, neatly ranged on the old wooden table. The golden light from the kitchen lamp spilled down, wrapping the entire home in warmth. When Hùng stepped inside, dragging his heavy suitcase not just filled with belongings but also carrying the burdens and worries of his past, he froze at the sight before him. This place, a modest house yet overflowing with affection, was now the only place he could truly call home. Hung no longer had a house of his own to return to. The old home, where his youthful memories resided, had been sold to pay off his mother's crushing debts. Years of carrying responsibilities in her place had weighed heavily on his shoulders since leaving the police force. Giving up the career that had once been his pride, he had fallen into emptiness. Now, all he carried were a few sets of clothes, some documents, and a large debt still clinging to him. He had no job for the moment, and the future ahead looked uncertain. Yet in that fragile moment, Lythieuca chose to stay by his side. She did not reproach him, nor did she fear his lack of stability. On the contrary, she felt she needed to become his anchor, so that he could stand tall again. With tenderness, she cared for him, preparing each meal, tidying every little corner of the house, as if to say, "As long as you are here, I will walk with you through everything." That quiet resolve made Hung realize that love was not some distant ideal, but something present in these simple, everyday moments. In the early days of living together, their life was still full of shortages, yet overflowing with a kind of happiness that words could hardly capture. Each morning, Lythieuca rose early to prepare breakfast for Tony and Hung. The three of them would gather around, their laughter filling the small home. In the evenings, they cooked together, cleaned together, and sometimes simply sat on the porch, listening to the breeze, feeling at peace in their hearts. Both of them could sense it clearly after all the storms, separations, and trials. This was the first time they truly felt tranquility. Hung looked at Lythieuca and Tony, his heart swelling with deep gratitude. He knew that although the future would still hold hardships, at least he was no longer alone. Lythieuca, for her part, believed that with Hung by her side, she would always be strong enough to face whatever storms might come. And so, as they sat together under the golden light, it felt as though they had returned to the very beginning, when their hearts were still full of faith, when love was still innocent and brimming with hope. After everything, Lythieuca and Hung had finally found a fragment of peace, a quiet haven they had both longed for. Through countless years of turmoil, since he was temporarily away from work, Hung now had more time to spend with Lythieuca. Early that morning, after taking Tony to school, instead of heading straight home, Hung decided to join Lythieuca. In the garden, it was guava harvest day, the fruit she often picked to sell at the market, earning a little extra to make ends meet. The two of them walked side by side along rows of lush green trees, under the guava leaves that gave off a faint, earthy fragrance, slightly sharp, yet strangely soothing. It was Hung's first time doing this kind of work. He was clumsy but full of enthusiasm. Lythieuca, on the other hand, was quick and skilled, deftly picking the ripest fruits, sniffing their sweet aroma before gently placing them into the basket. Every now and then, they burst into laughter whenever Hung accidentally picked an unripe fruit or dropped one on the ground. Their laughter echoed through the orchard, turning hard labor into something lighthearted and joyful. For Lythieuca, that joy was truly precious. All this time, she had borne everything alone, caring for Tony, handling housework, and working tirelessly in the garden. To have something to sell at the market, her companions had only been the rustling of leaves and the constant worries of daily survival. But now, with Hung by her side working, talking, and laughing with her, her heart felt immeasurably warmer. The feeling of having someone to lean on, a shoulder to share the weight, filled her with both surprise and happiness. Hung felt the same. He had been used to a life of tension, facing criminals, carrying heavy responsibilities. He never imagined a day would come when he would sit beneath guava branches, slowly picking fruit one by one. Yet in that very moment, he experienced a simple peace he had never known before. Each basket they carefully set down was not just the result of their labor, but a symbol of companionship and shared effort. Later, at the market, Lythieuca skillfully arranged the ripest guavas in a bamboo basket. Her voice rising above the bustle of the village crowd, Hung stood by her side, helping her organize, fetch water, and smiling whenever a customer stopped to buy. The guavas were sweet and fresh, quickly drawing people over. Before long, the basket was empty. Holding the handful of small bills in her hand, Lythieuca's eyes sparkled with joy. It wasn't only the satisfaction of selling out, but the happiness of, for the first time in years, sharing both hardship and accomplishment with the man she loved. That night, as the three of them hung, Lythieuca and Tony sat around a simple yet warm dinner table. Hung suddenly realized something. He might have lost his job, lost his old house, and still carried the weight of heavy debts. But in return, he had gained a true home. A home built from love, from sharing, and from the joint effort of two people walking side by side. While Hoai was busy at the market selling the baskets of guavas they had picked that morning, Hung stayed home alone. The house, long without a caring hand, showed its neglect, weeds sprouting in the yard, dry leaves scattered everywhere. Back when Hung was still immersed in his police work, he used to hire a village woman to help tidy the place, tend the chickens, ducks, and the small garden, but since she had left to give birth, everything had been abandoned. Now, all of it seemed to fall squarely on Hung's shoulders. Rolling up his sleeves, he took a broom and began sweeping the yard, gathering little piles of leaves. Sweat trickled down his forehead, yet his heart felt unusually light. As he swept, he fed the chickens, poured water for the dogs. The clucking of hens and scratching of claws filled the once quiet space, making it lively again, as if the house was finally welcoming its true master back. As he bent down to clean the old wooden chairs on the porch, his phone suddenly rang. Glancing at the screen, he froze. It was his superior's number. For a brief moment, hesitation flickered in his eyes. Since submitting his request for temporary leave, Hung had tried to detach himself from the relentless rhythm of his old job. Yet he knew one thing clearly: as long as he remained in the police force, duty could call at any time. His superior's voice came through, stern and direct. "Hung, we have an urgent matter. Report immediately." Short, decisive, leaving no room for refusal, Hung stood still for a heartbeat. A strange mix of emotions surged inside him: surprise, unease, even confusion. Though technically on leave, a command from the force was something he could never ignore. It wasn't just about discipline, it was about duty, about the lifeblood of his profession still coursing through his veins. He set the broom aside, splashed water on his sweat-streaked face, and hurriedly changed into something more proper. Before leaving, he glanced around at the freshly cleaned house, a pang of worry rising in his chest. Would this fragile sense of stability be disrupted once again? He knew stepping out the door this time might bring unforeseen consequences, sudden events that neither he nor Hoai was ready to face. At the station, once Hung arrived, his superior wasted no time. He handed Hung a file straight away, his voice grave yet tinged with caution. "Hung, we just received a report from a local resident near your sister Tieu San's home. A witness claims to have seen a woman resembling your mother appear in the area. According to them, she was looking for Tieu San. This could be a critical lead, one directly tied to your family's case." Hung froze, shock washed over him so completely that, for a moment, he couldn't utter a word. Why Tieu San? This time for as long as he could remember. He had feared this day, the day their mother would resurface, stirring chaos beyond his control, but he never imagined it would come so suddenly, so abruptly. A storm of emotions rose within him: suspicion, disappointment, and a quiet sorrow. Why had Tieu San kept silent? Could it be that, deep down, she still couldn't bring herself to hurt their mother, the woman who had raised and sheltered them throughout their childhood? No matter how dark or twisted the truth might be, for Tieu San, she was still their mother, still that familiar figure etched into the fragile years of their youth. Clutching the file tightly, Hung felt his heart sink like lead. He didn't know whether to be angry or to understand her silence. But one thing he knew with certainty: his mother's reappearance this time would not be simple. It could bring a chain of consequences not only for him and Tieu San, but also for Hoai and Tony, the small family he had only just begun to build. After leaving the station, Hung rode straight to Tieu San's house. The wind roared past his ears, yet inside, waves of emotion surged uncontrollably. When he arrived, the moment Tieu San saw him, she froze. Her eyes widened in surprise, laced with unease. "Brother Hung, why are you here?" Hung didn't waste time. Stepping into the house, he looked straight into his sister's eyes, his voice low and firm. "I know everything. Mother came to see you." The words struck like a sudden blade. Tieu San stiffened, the hand holding her handkerchief halted midair. After a moment, she lowered her head, her voice breaking. "I'm sorry, brother. I didn't mean to hide it. I just couldn't bear it. Mother has suffered so much, and I still love her. I was afraid that if I told you right away, she would think I had betrayed her." Hung let out a sigh, sorrow flickering in his eyes, but his tone remained resolute. "I understand. I love her too, but loving her doesn't mean letting her keep running. You know well, the longer she hides, the heavier her crime becomes. If we truly want what's best for her, There's only one way, persuade her to surrender. That's the only chance she has for mercy. Tieu San trembled, her voice quivering. Brother, I told her the same. She even promised me she would turn herself in. I believed her, but I never thought she would still be hiding nearby. The small room fell heavy with silence. Only the sound of the wind slipping through the cracks in the door remained. Hung stepped closer, placed a hand gently on her shoulder and spoke slowly, yet firmly. San, we only have one way forward together. You are the one she trusts, the one she loves. If you speak, she might listen. I don't blame you, but this time, I beg you, stand with me. Don't let Mother keep living in the shadows. If she surrenders now, there's still hope for leniency and hope for reunion. Hearing his words, tears streamed down Tieu San's cheeks. She nodded through sobs. Yes, I promise. I'll stand with you, no matter how hard it is. We must persuade her. Because I still love her as before, and I know you do too. The two siblings locked eyes, their silent agreement stronger than words. They knew the road ahead would be full of trials, but at last, they were united not to keep hiding their mother, but to help her find a way back, to face everything and perhaps to come home again. Tieu San remained silent for a long time after hearing Hung's words. Her eyes glistened with tears, yet her gaze gradually grew steadier. She nodded, her voice soft but firm. Brother Hung, I understand now. I'll do as you said. If Mother comes again, I'll speak to her clearly. I'll persuade her to surrender. We can't let her keep running anymore. I promise you, I won't help her do anything wrong. You can trust me. Hearing those words, Hung felt a weight lift slightly from his chest. His eyes softened as if a long-held burden had been eased. He placed a hand on his sister's shoulder and nodded gently. I trust you, San. We both want what's best for Mother. I know you love her just as I do. But true love means helping her face the truth, not letting her hide forever in the shadows. The air in the small house seemed to settle, filled only with sighs and a quiet resolve. After a moment, Hung stood up. The evening light streamed through the window, casting the siblings' shadows long across the worn brick floor. He spoke softly. I have to go. Now, there's still much I need to prepare. You should rest too. Tieu San walked him to the door, her eyes still misty but her heart steadier than before. She watched his figure fade into the narrow alley, silently reminding herself, next time, if Mother appears, she would hesitate no longer. As Hung left, his heart was still heavy, but faith outweighed fear. He knew that, at least now, he was no longer alone. His sister stood beside him, and together, they would find a way to bring their mother back to the right path. Back home, Hung kept everything he had just learned from his superior and from Tieu San to himself. He didn't want Hoai to know, for he knew too well. Even the mere mention of his mother's name would fill her with worry and dread. That was something he absolutely could not allow. Deep inside, he feared something even more. If their mother had not truly repented, if bitterness still lingered in her heart, then the first person she might seek out could very well be Hoai. Because of that, he made a firm decision. In the coming days, no matter what, he had to stay by her side, not only out of love, but also to protect her, to safeguard both Hoai and little Tony. He could not afford even a moment of carelessness, for one slip might open the door to disaster. That evening, beneath the soft glow of the moonlight over the garden, the two of them sat at their small dinner table. Hoai ladled soup into Hung's bowl, her eyes reflecting a quiet happiness. To her, the peace of this moment felt extraordinary after so many years of storms. Simply having Hung across from her, sharing a meal together, was enough. In her heart, a silent joy bloomed. At last, she had a true home. But in stark contrast to her serene smile, Hung's heart churned with unease. He still scooped rice, still listened to her stories, still nodded with a gentle smile, but in the depths of his gaze flickered a heavy thoughtfulness. His superior's stern words, Tieu San's hesitant eyes, all of it bound tightly around him. Had his mother truly meant to return? Would she heed his sister's plea and turn herself in? Or was it all a fade, hiding darker intentions and dangers waiting in the shadows? The moon shone bright. The night wind was cool and calm, but inside Hung was an ocean of restless waves. He knew well that this peace was only a temporary breath ahead. There would surely be more surprises, perhaps even storms lying in wait. Stay tuned for the next episodes to find out, will Hoai and Hung manage to hold on to this fragile peace? Or will they once again be forced to face turmoil brought by the woman they once called, with all the weight of love and pain, Mother?
chào tất cả mọi người đã quay trở lại với kênh của mình. Thì hôm nay mình tiếp tục đưa đến với mọi người video về chuyện của mẹ đơn thân Lý Hoài Ca và cảnh sát Hùng. Như mọi người cũng đã biết, cảnh sát Hùng và Lý Hoài Ca thì hiện tại đã về ở chung với nhau và hai người đang sống chung dưới một mái nhà. Tuy nhiên thì quyết tưởng là ở về sống chung với nhau thì sẽ hạnh phúc và sẽ êm ấm, nhưng mà chuyện khó khăn của họ còn đang rất là nhiều. Khi Hùng đã quyết định tạm nghỉ công việc cảnh sát bởi vì anh không chấp nhận được việc sẽ chuyển công tác cách xa cả 130 cây số, mà mỗi nhiệm kỳ như thế là hẳn khoảng 5 năm thì anh sẽ phải xa Hoài Ca và không có thời gian ở bên cô. Và đặc biệt anh lo lắng cho an toàn của Hoài Ca. Và hơn nữa là gần đây khi mà mẹ của Hùng đang có dấu hiệu là xuất hiện ở gần khu vực này, và đặc biệt hôm nay thì cấp trên đã gọi anh lên để nhờ anh nói với Tiểu San là khuyên giải bá ra đầu thú. Vậy thì mọi chuyện tiếp theo sẽ như thế nào? Mời mọi người cùng đón xem video ở ngày mai nhé.